Hey everybody, Sean here. Let's talk about research, secondary research. I mentioned this in class, but you're going to be doing primary research on your material by looking at, how a company or possibly companies use social media in your target country. But you're also going to do secondary research, and secondary research helps you do a lot of things, right? It helps you kind of broaden your understanding of topics that are related to what you're doing. So some of your secondary research might, for instance, help you understand what that company is like. What's the size of that company? How similar is that company to our company? Secondary research might help you understand that. Or it might help you understand some basic facts about the country that you're talking about. What's the size of the potential audience in this country? You can rely on secondary research to determine that. Or it might help you understand how companies use social media in this other country, right? It can definitely help you with that. So it'll do kind of all of those things, right? It will also increase your reliability. So rather than just relying on a single source that tells you one of those things, by asking you to find a bunch of sources, I'm asking you to maybe find a couple of sources that help you, that help give reliability to your findings. So if you find multiple sources that say, well, in Brazil, social media is this type of way, and you find multiple sources that say about the same thing, then that gives you more credibility. That gives you more reliability to that information. It helps you, your reader believe that that information is accurate. So you have to kind of do a couple of steps here. First, you have to figure out, well, what are the things we want to know, right? And that is something that you can start working through in your project plan. We kind of, I think, maybe have a more specific idea about what we want to know from our primary research. But when it comes to the secondary research, like what are all the other kind of questions that we have that are not maybe our core question, but help support that core question that are sort of around the edges? What are the other things we need to know, right? How big is the market is an example of something else you might need to know. So in the project plan, you might want to discuss a couple things that you have questions about. So if you have questions, then you need to find the sources. You need to find the information. And then finally, you need to write the annotated bibliography. So let's start with the finding the sources. Where do we find the information that we need in doing this? Well, the library is a great place to start. The library is a great place to start because it has access to journals, articles, books, magazines, and newspapers all in one. The great thing about the library, especially the ASU library, is that there's so much good info. There's so much stuff that you have access to through the library that you wouldn't normally have access to, right? Something like just the New York Times. The New York Times, you have to pay to get the New York Times. You have to pay money. Um, if you just go to the New York Times website, you might not be able to access everything, but you can access all of the New York Times through the library website and a whole bunch of other things. So to do that, the best way to do that is to go to library, the library guides. So let me find that. So go to Help, Library Guides. Select Library Guides, and then there is one for. We can do a search. We can sort our library guides. All right, so actually, we're going to make this even easier. Rather than sort or searching, what I want you to do is go to Help, Library Guides, go sort display here by popularity, and just use the English 102 guide. The English 10 or English 302 guide doesn't have as much stuff in it. So the English 102 guide has great stuff, all right? Um, Finding articles, research databases. There's a lot of sort of academic research databases, and I'd like you to explore those. Those can be good for answering sort of complex questions, maybe about how much does social media really help a business, right? You could probably find answers to that kind of a question in something like the Academic Search Premier, the academic databases. But a great database to start with is Opposing Viewpoints. Opposing Viewpoints will link to a variety of articles uh, on a topic that you select. So I pick health insurance at random, and we've got featured viewpoints, we've got more viewpoints, we've got statistics about this thing, we've got academic journal articles, we've got audio from NPR and other locations, we've got news. So essentially, this database collects everything that seems to be related to this, all kinds of articles that come out that are related to that topic. You can click on Browse Issues, and you can see all of the issues that they do. So then you have to decide, well, given our question, which issue is most likely to be relevant for us, right? So there is absolutely do a search for social media. Here we go. We've got a topic on social media. So maybe you'll find answers to some of your questions that you have here. Or if you're doing China, there's a page on opposing viewpoints for China with lots of articles and so forth about that. So lots of good topics here that can be useful. A similar tool is under Finding Topics, the Times topics here. Um, this will let you find all the articles that are about whatever topic you're interested in that have been published in the New York Times, which is, the most credible newspaper, really, or one of them. So it's a good place to find sort of more general information about a topic. All right, so let's go back to our library guide. Other good places to look are the background research tab, which will contain links to full text encyclopedias and other reference sources. Those can be great. And you can find statistics under the statistics section here, which can also be useful. Now, I'm primarily interested if you pull, if you go to the statistics section and you just do a quick search for like some basic information, right? Like a basic simple fact. That's not really what we're looking for the annotated bibliography. You might still use that in your report, but for your annotated bibliography, I'm expecting you to find 9 to 10 real sources like articles, right? Newspaper articles, magazine articles, journal articles, so on and so forth. Let's go back here. So Academic Search Premier is a good sort of general search database for all types of academic articles. So we might, for instance, use this and we might search for social media. We'll put it in quotation marks, social media, and China. And we can do a search for this. And these are very broad search terms. Um, so very broad search terms. But even then, even with very broad search terms, we got some information here, some articles that might be relevant. Which social media facilitate online public opinion in China? Um, let's see how the public uses social. Well, we don't need health information, so we're kind of getting some stuff that isn't kind of relevant, right? We're getting a mix. Sorting through this, we could probably find some good stuff, but it's best if we have more specific questions that we can attempt to answer. So we might say, well, we want to know, about popularity, or we want to know about businesses as well. So the more kind of terms we add here, the more specific our search results are going to be, and that can help us narrow down. But you have to know the questions first. You've got to know what you're trying to ask. Okay, so I would really recommend you start with the library search to try to find your material for your secondary research. Just doing a general internet search, you're going to find lots of stuff, but a lot of it's going to be irrelevant or it's going to be low credibility. It's going to be not the most reliable maybe source of information, not great sources, because anything can show up on the web. So the stuff that you find through the library, through any of those ways that I pointed you towards, those are going to be more reliable sources of information. So I'd like you to start there and you'll have more credibility when you write your final report. All right, so I'm going to have another video for you to watch, and